Hello, Mrs. Al from the Mattatuck Laurel Library. Today I wanted to share a book that I'm sure most of you have at your house. It's a wonderful story by Margaret Wise Brown, pictures by Clement Hurd, Goodnight Moon. This is a HarperCollins book, and we want to thank them for letting us read it. But what I'd like you to do is, if you do have this book at home, really sit down and take a look at the pictures. Many people, as they're reading the story, get so hung up on what's happening, they forget to notice how what they have done with the illustrations is when you start off and you see the room is nice and bright, as it gets darker and the lamp goes on, I want you to notice how the pictures change and what happens with the window outside. So much is going on in picture books, and it's just absolutely wonderful. So if you have this book, read along with me and get to see what you have. So let's get started with Goodnight Moon. You can say it along with me if you know. In the great green room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of the cow jumping over the moon. And there were 3 little bears sitting on chairs. And 2 little kittens, and a pair of mittens, and a little toy house, and a young mouse. And a comb, and a brush, and a bowl full of mush, and a quiet old lady whispering, hush. Good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. Good night, light and the red balloon. Good night, bears. Good night, chairs. Good night, kittens, and good night, mittens. Good night, clocks, and good night, socks. Good night, little house, and good night, mouse. Good night, comb, and good night, brush. Good night, nobody, and good night, mush. And good night to the old lady whispering, hush. Good night, stars. Good night, air. Good night, noises everywhere. Good Night Moon by Margaret Wise Brown. I hope you've enjoyed that. And as I said, if you do have this book at home, take a look at how they have illustrated this and how each page, as it gets darker, what happens and what do you see. Don't just look for what she told you. Look for everything else that you get to see in those pictures. Have a great day. Thank you. Good night.